Can you imagine being 19 years old and you're on the beach one day with your friends and you dive into a wave, but instead you hit a sandbank and you break your neck? Well, that's what happened to a young friend of mine, Jack. And since I've gotten to know Jack, he's had a very profound effect on me. And I think about the things he says quite a lot as he struggles to make meaning of this and to go forward with his life. And one of the things he said recently was, every single day he said, I choose to say yes rather than no. And by that he means he chooses to say yes to this new life and all the challenges and trials and tribulations that it might bring. Now, of course, he's never going to stop grieving for his old life. And it was a great life. He was a surfer dude. He was in college studying. He had a lovely girlfriend. And he's never going to stop seeking the cure for spinal injuries as he spends now part of his time in a wheelchair. But he is going to embrace the new life and the challenges that brings at the same time, in tandem with all of that. And one of the things Jack has found is that he's gotten himself back to college after his rehab, and he's going to qualify and he's going to graduate. And he's very clear about that he wants to contribute to the world of work. And when I think of him and talking about that and why work means so much to him, it got me thinking, what is it about work that defines us and makes us value ourselves and makes us find our worth? Everywhere you go in the world, you meet people and they'll ask you three things. They'll ask you your name, they'll ask you where you come from, and the next thing they'll ask you is, what do you do? So we do define ourselves by our work. And then why do we give it such bad press? If you look up the word work in a thesaurus, you'll find 36 synonyms, and most of them negative. Toil, grind, slog, drudgery, sweat. It's unbelievable if you think about it. And if it is so important to us and it defines us, well, why do we look at it that way? What is it about work that makes us look at it in that way? And when I think about work, I think about two things. I think about adapters and I think about adopters. And which are you and which are you going to be? If you're an elderly person now, if you're facing retirement fairly soon, you might have spent the last 20 or 30 years in the one job. So you're an adopter. You adopted that role and you stayed in that role for that length of time. But you're probably the last people on the planet who will ever do that. If you're a young student like Jack, you're going to have to be an adapter. Because if there's one thing I can guarantee you about your working life, it is that you're going to do 5 or 6 or 10 or maybe 15 different roles between now and when you're 65 and 70. You're going to have to be an adapter. Now, what exactly do I mean, again, by an adapter and adopter? Let me explain it a little more for you. This here is the roof of the Roman Pantheon, and it's made of concrete. And the particular recipe for that concrete was designed by the Romans 2,000 years ago. It's called Roman concrete. And it was used all of those years, for nearly 1,700 years, in every building, every construction, all around the world, this recipe for concrete was used. So can you imagine if you were a master builder and you took on an apprentice, you taught him this recipe for this concrete, and he used that to become gainfully employed and earn his living, and then he passed that recipe on to his apprentice. So they, in turn, they were adopters. There was no need for creativity or change. They just carried on doing the same thing again and again. And you compare that with the wonderful world we live in today, with all of this fantastic technology being thrown at us, this disruptive technology that makes us want all this stuff and makes us want to use it and makes us want to consume it and buy it as consumers. And what is it about this technology? Well, it's that it changes so dramatically all the time. If you're a software engineer and you design a program or you design a piece of software, it'll probably change and you'll probably have to completely redesign it in 17 months. And if you get an app on your iPhone there, you know what, there'll be an update coming into your iPhone in 17 weeks. And soon enough, they'll be telling us we need actually a new update every 17 days. And then it's going to go probably to 17 minutes. But that is this wonderful adaptive technology that we're using. And the world we're living in is full of this technology. But how do we create an environment where people who become users of adaptive technology, how do we create that environment and where do they come from? Well, when I was at school, and it wasn't that long ago, I was always told by teachers and my parents to work hard, study hard, get through the school system, and then what would happen? You'd find yourself a job. And, you know, we then become parents ourselves, and they say we all turn into our parents, and you find yourself saying the same thing to your children. Get out there and get a job, young man. But we have to pull ourselves up and stop saying that. What we need to be telling our young people today is find a customer, not a job. Because if you can design or make or build or produce or cook or grow or advise or measure anything at all, and somebody wants to buy that product or service, well, you're in business and you have a customer. And add on to that another layer. If you're an adapter, if you're a confident adapter, you don't panic when that customer goes away and decides they want another product, because you can design a new one. Or if that customer decides to buy from a different supplier, because you'll find a new supplier or you'll find a new market, and you'll tell that new market that they need that product or they need that service. That's what a confident adapter does. A confident adapter is, of course, an entrepreneur. That's what I'm talking about. And this entrepreneurial spirit we hear so much about is ultimately down to one thing: solving problems. Because anywhere you are in the world, any kind of business you're engaged in, if you're a sweet shop up the road here, or you're a major international corporation, or any kind of business in between, you're actually only doing one thing. You're solving somebody's problem and you're getting paid for it. Now, I think we kind of focus a little bit too much on the getting paid for it bit. Now, I know we do need to be paid. We need to eat and work and buy shoes for those kids and educate them and all of that stuff. But by fixating on the money, I think we lose sight a little bit of the problem-solving bit, because it's the problem-solving bit that makes us find our value and our worth. It's the problem-solving bit that makes us feel good about ourselves. It's the problem-solving bit that allows us reach out, look around, to spot opportunities, and it's the problem-solving bit that gives us our direction and gives us our focus and gives us our value. And you know, when you talk about that entrepreneurial gene or spirit, there's always big discussions around academics and others in education. Is it a muscle? Is it a gene? Is it nature or nurture? Do we teach it? Is it innate? Well, I firmly believe it's a muscle. And I firmly believe we need to start flexing that muscle as early as we possibly can. Now, the colleges and the universities are doing great work around entrepreneurship, as we know. And even in middle schools, there are start your own business classes being run for those students. But I really think we need to start flexing that muscle much earlier. We need to do it in junior school. And when we hear our governments talking about increasing class sizes or increasing pupil-teacher ratios, we need to be out on the street marching and preventing this from happening. Because it's only in small class sizes that a teacher who is herself or himself a confident adapter can actually teach the one big lesson they need to teach our young kids these days, and that is problem solving. If you can solve a problem, you have the confidence to go out there and do it. In a large class size, a teacher can't possibly do that. All they can do is keep order. In a small class size, a teacher gets fantastic creative work, little clusters emerge, and within those little clusters, well, what do you spot? You spot a leader, you spot a creative, you spot a team player, you spot a strategist. They all emerge in this wonderful environment, because we desperately need an environment where people come forward and emerge, young people who have their value and their worth, and they understand it. And they have the confidence to understand where their skills lie. And they have the confidence to then apply those skills to the world of work. And they have the confidence to look around them and find customers. And they don't go through the school system, as I did, waiting to come out the far end and somebody to bestow this job upon me. I want that generation to come forward and find their customers and have the confidence to do it based on their skill sets and based on this confidence that will emerge in the correct school system. My friend Jack, my young friend Jack, is a confident adapter. In one extraordinary year in that young man's life, he dug deep. He found his value. He found his worth. He found his goal. And he now knows that he will contribute to the world on some level, because when he qualifies and graduates and gets out there, he knows he will work. He's not sure what that work is going to be because he's a confident adapter, but he knows that he is actually going to do it and he's going to make his impact. Now, I could tell you here tonight he's very inspirational, but the next time I meet him, he'd give me an earful because he keeps saying, I'm not inspirational, I'm just getting on with it. And I sort of think, well, if he can get on with it, well, the rest of us should give it a try. What do you think? Thanks for listening.